causing fire to spread 4 times faster. The more the area is steepy, the more the fire are fast and intense. Ember attack is a way that causes house to catch fire in bushfires. This is where we have small twigs, like small twigs, leaves, and bark are carried by wind, landing in or around the house. These are the way fire catches spreading to the houses. I am Wako, Fire Chief, Isiolo County, and my background is I have mechanical engineering. I've been a fire marshal since when I joined my first duty, which was GSU. I served the Kenya Police GSU. I started the fire marshal. Then I went to engineering, Brookside Dairy Fire Engineering Department. There I've been an auditor in occupational health and safety. Then I went to Sami Africa, where I was involved in much of occupational health and safety. Right now I'm a student of disaster at Kenyatta University. Through internal audits of occupational health and safety, 1800-2007, and then environmental 1400-2004, 2004 EMS internal auditing. This has put us more into light about fire. So today, as a fire chief, the work which I was given now running for more than like 2 years, we have been involved in bushfires in Isiolo, where we have got a vast savanna grasslands, we have wildlife, we have vast land for grazing. These are causing a lot of fires. So with this experience, we are going to give a little of what we have, the information we have, we are going to share. So today we are going to cover wildland and ground fires. This is African Fire Mission virtual training, which was going on for now months, every Wednesday. So we encourage all firefighters to be attending these classes, because we have got a lot, in summary, in theory, we are getting a lot from fire sector. The qualified people, experienced people, information which otherwise we couldn't have got. Thank you. Next slide. So what we are going to cover is we are going to define the terms wildland fires, ground fires. We are going to explain out about the 3 elements of fire triangle in terms of wildfires. We are going to describe fuels, light fuels. We have heavy fuels, subsurface fuels, surface fuels, and aerial fuels. We are going to explain this in detail. Next slide. We are going also to tackle relationship between fuel properties and the speed at which the fuel ignites, spreading the fire. We are going to describe weather factors and topography influence the growth of wildland fires. We are going to label the parts of the wildfire itself. Next slide. We are going to describe methods and tools used to cool a fuel with water. We are going to describe methods and tools used to remove a fuel from wildland fires. We are going to describe methods and tools used to smooth wildland fires. Describe how a direct attack is mounted on wildland fires. Next slide. Describe how an indirect attack is mounted on a wildland fires. Itemize the characters of fire apparatus used to suppress wildland fires. Describe hazards associated with wildland and ground firefighting. Next slide. We are going to talk about the PPEs, personal protective gears. We are going to explain the problems created by wildland fires. We are going to look at the impact of wildland fires. Next slide. This is our first item of the training or presentation. We are going to look at the bushfire or wildland fires. The word there is NFPA. This is National Fire Protection Association. According to this, what are bushfires or wildland fires? What is a bush first? A bush is a shrub or a clump of shrubs with stems of moderate length. Wildland or and cultivated country land fires. A bushfire is a fire or a shrub or a forest, especially one that spreads rapidly. The difference between wildfire and bushfire, what are the difference? Wildfire is general umbrella term, whereas the term bushfire refers to an uncontrollable fire in a bushland. In simple terms, you can specifically refer to type of a wildfire depending on vegetation. But wildfire is actually an uncontained bushfire. So the real definition difference according to researchers is interchangeable. Wildfire or bushfire, they are the same things. Only that wildland fire or rural fire is uncontrolled fire in an area of combustible vegetation occurring in remote areas or rural areas, depending on type of vegetation present. Wildfire can also be classified more specifically as brush fires. Some people call them brush fires, bush fires, desert fires, forest fires, grass fires, hill fires, pit fires, vegetation fires, veld fires. All are these different names of the bush fires. They are fires that burn through areas of bushland. In our NFAs and plan and control fires, burning in vegetative fuel that sometimes include structures, can consume grassland, trees of all sizes, referred to by different terms as we have described. Next slide. Ground cover fires burn loose debris on surface of the ground. Many structure fires, firefighters are called on to extinguish fires, like in Isiolo, we are structural firefighters, but still we are called upon when we have the ground fires. Next point. Next slide. Large wildland fires are handled by specialized agencies. Each state has an agency designated to coordinate wildland fires. Like in Kenya, we have got forest department that deals with this. In USA, we have got federal agencies. Next slide. Next slide. Causes. What are the causes of bush fires? While the cause of fires starting can vary from natural to man-made reasons, the severity of fires and the damage they do is increasingly linked to climate change. They can start naturally when lightning strikes and ignites dry plants and trees, like the golden wattle tree. Wattle tree. This wattle tree is trees that are found in Australia. It is called Acacia scindata. It grows 1.8 meters, and they do well in desert areas. Climate change does not start bushfires, but it does cause them to become larger and more ferocious. That is because our warming planet is experiencing more intense periods of drying out the vegetation that fuels the fires. Next slide. How are fires caused? There are several causes of wildfires: natural and man-made. Natural is the lightening. At the beginning of rains, when you have lightening, then this can cause wildland fires. But in like our places, we have rarely rain. So this is in area where we have got more rain areas. Next slide. Then, apart from natural, we have got accidental causes of fires. Accidental, like cooking in camp areas. This is honey gathering. Next slide. Is burning fields for agriculture. This is where next slide. Cooking. This is in camps. Like in Isiolo, we have got camps. We have more camps in parks than we have got structure, like hotels. So most of the people, when they cook, they don't put off the fire properly. Like we have got people who are grazing their wild stock. Someone leaves the house from morning, he will not come back the whole day. So they cook in the grazing land. So when they cook, when they don't properly put off the fire, then from this one, it starts now the wildfires. Next slide. Dumps, like when you go to the parks in Isiolo, we have a lot of recreation activities outside Isiolo town. So people go there, they take their munching, and in dump site, when they dump, inside maybe there are explosives or maybe there are cigarettes, butts, then out of this is the fire starts. Next slide. Carelessness can also cause fires. Carelessness, when you just throw your cigarette butt, you don't care, it falls on where. Next slide. Then we have got deliberate. Some people deliberately start fires. Like when you go for bee honey hunting, someone just deliberate. You just start fire. After you harvest your honey, you just leave fire. You don't care, careless. You don't care. Next slide. Hunting. When people go for hunting, after you hunt your animals, then you cook. When you cook, you just leave the fire without considering what happens after you leave. Next. Like improving grazing, we have said this one. People ban so that if, like in our area, when you have grass that are not edible for wild animals, for domestic animals like cows, they ban so that in intention of when the next rain comes, they will grow a grass that is tangible for the animals. Next slide. Improve grazing, this is the way some agriculture. Then deliberate, you can create fire breaks. This one is firefighters. When you want to create fire barriers, you start and then it becomes a point where you are unable to control. Next slide. The next is wildland and ground fires and fire triangle. Wildland and ground fires require the same three elements: oxygen, fuel, and heat to start. Just the way structure fire start. Condition on which elements come together to produce a fire are different. Next slide. Primarily, fuel is area vegetation. Fuel. Vegetation fuels can be located underground, on the surface, above the ground. These are the source of fuels. Next slide. Then we have got fine fuels. These includes dried vegetation like twigs, barks, like moss. Many types of fuel in ground covers fires, aid the ignition behavior of fuels. Next slide. Next slide. Heavy fuels. Next, back, please. Heavy fuels. These include large brush, heavy timbers, stumps, dead timbers. Do not spread a fire as rapidly. This one does not, it takes time to burn, but once it burns, it provides large fuel to the ground fires. Can burn with a high intensity. Next slide. Subsurface fuels, these are located under the ground like roots, turf, decomposed stubs. Fires involving subsurface fuels are hard to locate and extinguish. These are hard to locate. Next slide, please. I don't know where I'm going faster. Still surface fuels located close to surface of the ground, grass, needles, small trees. These are all source of fuels, sometimes called ground fuels, involved in ground cover fires. Next slide. Then aerial fuels. These are the canopy. top of the trees. These are located more than 1.8 meters above the ground. These are limbs, leaves, needles, and the moss. Next slide. Other fuels in bushland depends on the size and shape, compactness, continuity. These are what we learned on the fire behavior in our previous lesson. The volume, moisture level, all these are common in even structural fires. Next slide. Then fuel compactness. This is oxygen and it cannot get large surfaces in a short period. These are what we are taught last time. Fuel continuity. Fuel touching each other allows fire to spread from one area to another area. Next slide. Then about the volume, quantity of fuel available in the area, number of trees, branches, leaves, like shrubs in our area, influence, growth, and intensity of the fire. The more we have got, the more fuels, the more we have got the intensity of the fire. Then the moisture content, this is high moisture will not ignite and burn as readily as low moisture. Like in our area, dry. If it does not rain for a year, then it becomes dry. When it's dry, then it's a source of fuel. Fire spreads more faster. Next slide. Oxygen, not an important variable in ignition or spread of wildland or ground fires. Air movement influences the speed in which the fire moves. Next slide. Heat, sufficient heat must be applied to fuel in the presence of adequate oxygen to produce a fire. There are three categories of factors that involve in heat: natural causes and intentional causes. Intentional causes, this is what we have learned earlier in earlier slides. Next. Weather relative humidity, ratio of amount of water vapor present in the air compared with maximum amount of air can hold at a given temperature. When low, vegetation fuels are more susceptible to ignition. Next slide. Precipitation helps increase the relative humidity absorbed by plants. When there is adequate precipitation, then fire risk is lower. Next slide. Wind has ability to move a fire at a great speed. Effect is similar to fanning a fire to help it burn more rapidly. When we have got the wind, a lot of wind means you are fanning. When you are fanning, then you generate more oxygen to the fire. Next slide. Topography. These are changes of elevation in land and the position of natural or man-made features. On a flat land, heat rises into the air. On a hillside, convection and radiant heat causes a more rapid spread. Next slide. Anatomy of wildland fires. If we want to understand about fire, we have to know exactly the shape of fires. The shape of fires. Sorry, this one is how the fire spreads. If you study this one, how the structure of the fire, then we can at least know how the fire spreads. Area of origin, like this point is the area of origin. It's called the rear. This is where the fire begins. The original fire, where it starts, called the rear. And then we have got the head of the fire. This end, this is called the head. Is the main or the running edge of the fire. It's spread with the greatest speed. So this is the origin, and this is the spread. And then we have got the pockets, and then the right and the left wings. And then we have the fingers. Next slide. We have got the rear. A rear fire is the opposite of the end. The edge is the forefront, and then the rear is the origin. The fingers are the narrow point of the fire caused by shift in wind or changes in topography. Can grow and produce a secondary direction of travel for the fire. Next slide. We have got the pockets. These are the unburned fuel surrounded by the fire. These are the fuels that are not burned. Then the island are the unburned areas surrounding the fire. Not the difference. The pocket is the unburned fuel, while the island is the unburned area surrounded by the fire. Next slide. Spot fire. These are the new fire that start outside the main fire. These are the like the bugs when or the leaves when they are carried by the winds. So the spots where they start is called the spot fire. And the green is the area of the unburned fuels. The black are areas that have already been burned. So always we have to attack fire from this black end, the soot end, not from the area which are already going to be burned. Next slide. Cooling the fuel. Now this is when we want to suppress the fire. First is cooling. Water is used to cool the fuel. We have got the backpack. Backpack are loads or package that firefighters mount on themselves that they use to extinguish the fire. We have got the booster tanks. These are our fire engines. They are aeroplanes or aircrafts which are used. So backpack are used by the firefighters who are on the foot. They have special packages on their backs, and they used to extinguish fire. And then next slide. Removing the fuel. This is we use the fire brooms, we use rakes, we use fire beaters to remove the fuel. Rakes also are used to remove the fires. Next slide. Sometimes saws, you can use saw to remove heavy fuel by cutting them and removing them from the areas which are burning. Backfiring can create an area devoid of vegetation. Next slide. Smoothing, removing oxygen, most commonly used when overhauling the last remnants of fire, not as useful during the more active phase of fire. Next slide. Compressed air foam cuffs. These are combined foam concentration, water, and compressed air to produce foam. Like in our fire engines, you can use foam to remove the oxygen, you cover. Extinguishing with less water, reduce rekindling. Next. But we commonly, most of the time, we don't use that. Then attacking fire, it is the same as a structure where we use offensive and defensive. In also bushfires, we use the same style, but we call them direct and indirect. Direct attack is a strategy which one is in direct contact with fire. For you to use the direct attack, you must be in 100 feet on the edge of fire. We use hand line or machine line. And then this is mounted by containing and extinguishing fire as it burns at its burning edge, dangerous to firefighters. These are where, like our Narok brother, I think it's Narok. Direct attack is what causes a lot of problem to firefighters because of smoke and inhaling. Advantage of direct attack is you can contain fire quick, but it is dangerous unless you are familiar with the escape zone. Unless you first draw your escape zone, there is what is called escape zone. Escape zone is before you start attacking, you must know your evacuation plan. You must have your evacuation plan. Unless you are very familiar with, we don't encourage this style. Most of the time, we just use fighting fire from the black side. Next slide. Okay, we have got this is called flanking. Flanking. As you can see the picture, we have got the fire engine 1 and fire engine 2. The same way we can also use firefighters who are on the foot. They can also arrange themselves on on the same style, and then flanking, left flanking and right flanking, where if we have got, I don't know whether you are seeing my cursor, I don't know. When someone is in front at this edge, then when you extinguish your fire, you go front of your another firefighter until you extinguish completely. This style requires two teams. Team one mounts a large left flank and the other one on the right flank. But in our case, most of the time we go with one fire engine. So if you go with one fire engine, you just look at the side which is spreading more. The side which are spreading more is the side you use first to extinguish. After you are done with, you go to the other side until you extinguish completely. But always make sure you are fighting fire from the rear side, from the origin side, the area which is already burnt. Next slide. Yeah, this is for most of the time we use one fire engine. It's done on either side. Next slide. Then indirect attack. Indirect attack is when you use fight from distance. It's for large fires. Large fires you cannot be able to attack directly, where you depends on also topography. It depends on the area. So indirect attack is where you, where you drop from a distance. That is, you're fighting from the front of the path of the fire. Next slide, kindly. Priorities of attack. Incident commander must assess and evaluate the priorities for preserving lives and property before determining how to attack a bushfire. Next slide. Apparatus that are used in bushfires. We have got the structure fire apparatus. Like our fire engine, most of our fire engine, they don't have pump and roll capabilities. They do not possess off-road capabilities. So I think when you use our fire engine, we are more disadvantaged. Next. Then we have got what you can see on the pictures, small pickup trucks, which are, these are efficient. But unfortunately, I think most of, in Isiolo, we have one for, it's a private, in a private farm. This one, they use hose reel, which is simple to use. It can go anywhere, not like bulky like fire engines. Next. Next slide. Now we go to hazard of bushfires. When you are driving in rough terrain, there is risk of rolling over a fire engine. When you are working in rough terrain, you have risk of falling. There is risk of inhalation of hot air. Next slide. There is a risk of falling trees. We have got the risk of electricity, like if you are in most of the parks, we have got electrical fences. So shock, you can get shock, dehydration. Next slide. Personal protective equipment, jumpsuits, coat and shirt and trousers are used. Like our most of our PPEs, they are bulky, heavier, and it's hard. Most of the time, it's hard to withstand the heat from the fire and from the sun. There is a special approved helmets for wildland fires, and then we have to use building apparatus. Next. We have got fire shelters. Fire shelters are reflective foil. This one, they assist in when you are in danger, when you are in extreme danger. They are protect firefighters from heat and smoke. It is the last resort. We use them in the last resort. You don't go into a bushfire that you have a fire shelter. No, we don't do like that. This one we use when we have the last. You don't have another option. This is the last option. So first, what we do is we mark the escape zone, escape route, and then if it is risky, you see that the fire is spreading faster and it's risky, you run. You drop all your gears, because when you have your gears, and when you don't have gears, the difference in movement, one goes 30% faster. So you remove everything, you escape, and the last resort, when you don't have any alternative, is when you open this you can YouTube and check the fire shelter. It has a zip, and then you face down, and you use this one. It reflects approximately 95% of the fire radiant heat for a short period. It's used when you are unable to get to a safety zone within required time. Next slide. Wildland and urban interface. This is a zone between where the bush and infrastructure or the houses. It's an area where undeveloped land with vegetation fuels is mixed with human-made structures. It's a present a significant life safety hazard and huge property loss potential. Next slide. Emphasis the most importance of having structural firefighters learn the basic principles of fighting bushfires. Efforts geared at reducing loss needs to be directed at prevention. Next slide. In summary, fire safety. We must have to keep informed on fire weather conditions. We have to know what your fire is doing at all the times. Study your fire, look at it, observe fire, base actions on behavior of fire, identify escape routes and safety zones. You have to look out when there is danger. Someone must be on lookout on the direction and the spread of the fire. One must be alert, calm and clear and decisive. Next slide. We have to maintain prompt communication. There must be a communication between all of the team which are in the bushfire. We have to give clear instructions. Whoever is the supervisor, the team leader, he must give clear instruction. Ensure that they are understood. You must maintain control of your forces. Fight fire aggressively, having provided for safety first. Next slide. Before we go to summary, impact. What are the impacts of bushfires? Hot fire removes ground covers and increases erosion. Bushfire increases encroachments. Bushfire reduces or loss to revenue through timbers, like wildlife are affected, then loss of revenue in tourism, loss of products of fire, products of food. Next slide. In summary, wildland fires or bushfires, are fires burning in vegetative fuel. Bushfires are sometimes called brush, forest, ground covers, ground fires, natural covers, wildlife fires. They have different names. Wildland fires is an uncultivated natural state. Wildland is an cultivated natural estate. Next slide. Large fires are handled by specialized agencies. Wildland fires triangle consists of 3 elements. Vegetation is primarily fuel for bushfires. The size and shape of fuel influence how it burns. Next slide. Air movement influences the speed and direction of fires. Lightening is a source of almost all natural caused wildland fires. Weather conditions and topography have a great effect on wildland fires. Location where a wildland fire starts is called the origin. Next slide. Okay, the head of fire is rapidly moving. A finger is extension of fire. A pocket is an burned area. Green areas contain unburned fuels. Black areas are already burned. Wildland fires can be controlled by cooling, removing, or smoothing of the fire. Next slide. Backpack pump extinguishers may be effective against small wildland fires. Hand tools may remove fuel from the fires. Cuffs, foam may smooth the wildland fires. Direct and indirect attacks are used. Firefighters should know escape routes. Next slide. Hazards include apparatus, rollover, falls, burns, smoke inhalation, dehydration, stroke. Fire shelters are an important piece of PPE. The Wildland-Urban Interface presents a significant risk to both lives and structures. Next. Thank you. It was my humble. Thank you very much for your time, and I might take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wako. If you go to the chat, we have a question from Cyrus. Cyrus Kalemunguruk asks, which technique can we use to fight wildland fire? Is it from the back of the fire or the front? That's Kalemunguruk asking.
It depends on the intensity of the fire, but mostly we recommend you fight from the original site for safety. If you don't have enough tools, if you don't have enough PPEs, it is best to fight fire from the origin.
Let's see, I see, I don't know how to say this name. Someone has raised their hand. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Is it Suleiman?
Yes, correct.
Suleiman?
Suleiman.
Suleiman. You can go ahead, unmute and ask your question. You'll have to press the button there to unmute the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, while fighting wildland fire, do we have any different PPEs for fighting wildland fires, or we can use the same that we fight structural fire? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. It is recommended that we use small fire trucks. That is the most recommended. We can also use hand tools like rake, like fire beaters, to put off small fires. But if it is large fire, like the one in Savo, we use aircraft. So it depends on size. I don't know if I answered correctly.
He had additionally a question about the PPE, the structural versus wildland PPE, and how to use those.
Okay, I think we have said in our slides, we have use the suits, light ones. They are light suits for bushfires. We have got approved element for bushfires. We have got like fire shelters with a part of PPEs. But our structural fire ones are bulky, and it's more, because bushfires, like structure fires, we use 10, 20, 30 minutes over, but bushfires, it can last for even 3, 4, 5 days, even a month. So I think they are specialized for bushfires.
Yeah.
But if you don't have alternative, you just use the PPEs we have.
Yes, I was going to say, I don't think that there's very much wildland PPE that's safe and truly approved in Kenya or really across much of Africa. So any personal protective equipment is better than no personal protective equipment. So we always want to remember that. But also, this is a place where advocacy needs to take place to advocate for your communities to get you the proper PPE that you need. If you need wildland PPE, it's a great place to be advocating to get those resources. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm Richard from Nyeri, and I just wanted to add something little on the aspects of fire, of wildlife fire, where Chief talked about wind. I think for me, the wind has been of much risk to us, because like currently, like a month or two ago, here in Nyeri, we had a dry spell, and we had a lot of wildlife fires. So I would like to add just a small thing on wind. We need to be very cautious when it comes to wildland fires. We look on both direction of the wind, and also try to be very vigilant on speed of the wind, because those are the two things that will make us have a lot of issues. Because when the wind has a higher speed, it means it will burn with a higher velocity, and it will produce a lot of heat, a lot of smokes. So that one. The other thing is terrains. We have different terrains. I think it's better for us to understand our positions well, because if you look at what happened in Narok some few months ago, it was a bit difficult for those guys to do the firefighting procedures. So I think it's easier for us if we would try and consider the wind mostly, it's what affects. The other thing is the materials that are burning. We should be very vigilant, because if you have like dry bushes that are burning, it means they will burn at a very high rate. Like if you compare them with the greener bushes. So those are some of the things that I would try. I would maybe tell everyone to be conscious with, just like we do the structural fires. It's what we do. It's what you see. Let's do more of a synthesizer part other than the adrenaline controlled person. We should be more of, what I'm trying to say is, I'm trying to tell firefighters, we should be more of eyesighters. We look, we see what is happening, then we act. Because if we act according to adrenaline, we would tend to attack fire where it's on the highest point, or where it is on the climax. As Chief Wako have said, attacking wildlife fires, it's determined basically by what is burning. And if we start the fires from rear side going to the head, I think we have a higher chance of winning, because one thing, where the fire has already burned, there is zero possibility the fire will come back there. So we will be on a safe side. So thank you.
Very important safety information and considerations for sure. The wind in the US, one of the things that, as the coordination for the wildfires have grown, they actually, for large fires, always have someone representing the weather service that can help to, a meteorologist that can help to predict what might be coming in terms of the weather. And so the weather is such a critical part of the incident. Any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
My question? Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, what season mostly cause a forest fire? Season. The season which mostly occur the forest fire.
Mostly bushfires are from June to November. Dry season and windy. From June to November. And the highest is July. In Kenya, that is.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. The highest bushfires start from June, when we have got windy and dry season, and then it goes up to November most of the time. But the highest peak is August. That is in Kenya.
I think regarding the seasons of fire, I can say maybe during a dry season. For example, a place like here in Eldoret, Wasingishu, in June there's a lot of rain. So currently now there's a lot of drought. It is very dry. So between November and December, it's quite higher. So maybe we can say when it's dry season, not.
As for me, on the take of when is the fire, the likely time that we have wildfires, I think usually the season when the wildfires starts from when people are harvesting to the end of the dry season. So from the time that people are harvesting, most of the people tend to start burning, of which fire escape them. So it's usually during those times.
That's Martin Shipasa from Zambia.
Thank you, Martin. It is different in each part of the world, isn't it? Very good. Any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Suppose you arrive at the scene of the fire and you don't know the nature of the materials or objects that have been burning, and you really want to put off the fire, how do you know the best or the appropriate method, the appropriate, is it water form, since you arrive and you don't know the materials burning? So how do you do in case you arrive and you don't know? Thank you.
Chief, were
Can
you
I try?
able?
Just can I try? My take, Martin again from Zambia.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I think basically when looking at the materials which are burning, I think we apply the very principles of firefighting. When you arrive at the scene, first you need to assess what is burning. If you can't see, even the smoke can tell you the type of fire which is burning. Is it the trees, or there are other chemicals which are burning? The trees, the smoke, all those things, they can be a good sign that can tell you what is burning and what is the appropriate measure that you need to take. I think that's my take. From that, you can observe, then take action.
Okay, I believe with if you do a good scene size up, you can be able to differentiate what is burning, because it's what you see against what is burning. That if you look well closely for just take some few minutes to see what is burning, and that's why I'm trying to advocate this thing of not doing more of scene size up every minute, other than fighting fire with adrenaline. That's, I think, what you just have to look at it. Thank you.
I want to add something on that. I think your system starts where you receive emergency call, whereby you are dispatched with all information about the scene, what is burning, and also before dispatching the crew, they have to tell you what is burning. I think that will be the major part of you as a firefighter before you respond to the scene. Thank you.
Thank you to our instructor Abgudo and to all of the participation in today's training. We will be posting the recording online soon for future reference. We would ask that you complete our online evaluations so that we continue to improve our trainings. Next week, we will be doing a welcome to our symposium. You will be able to use the same link to log in to the training next week if you're able to attend. Please invite other firefighters to register and attend our trainings. Thank you, and remember, a better fire service starts with you.
Thank you, Shandy, and thank you, Chief Wako. We really appreciate your time today and your efforts in putting this class together. We are so excited to see more and more instructors from the countries where we're serving. That is a sign of success for us as Africa Fire Mission as we can begin to step back our instructors. So thank you very much for your time today. Are there any final words that you'd like to say as we wrap up?
Thank you for your time. And this class is very productive. I encourage all firefighters. We are not only 25, I think we are more than 900 people in Kenya, firefighters in Kenya. This is our luck. So I think we have to encourage as much as we attend. We also encourage you to come. And also our symposium 16 to 21st. Let us all register and let us all be together. Thank you very much.